Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
The act of making up your mind about something. The burden of decision was his. A position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. A decision unfavorable to the opposition. The trait of resoluteness as evidenced by firmness of character or purpose. Boxing. A victory won on points when no knockout has occurred. Had little trouble in taking a unanimous decision over his opponent. The outcome of a game or contest. The team dropped 3 decisions in a row. Event whose occurrence ends something. The proposition arrived at by logical reasoning, such as the proposition that must follow from the major and minor premises of a syllogism. The act of making up your mind about something. He drew his conclusions quickly. A position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. His conclusion took the evidence into account. The act of ending something. The last section of a communication. In conclusion, I want to say. The temporal end, the concluding time. A final settlement. The conclusion of a business deal. An intuitive assumption. Jump to a conclusion. The act of making up your mind about something. A position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. Satisfied with the panel's determination. The quality of being determined to do or achieve something, firmness of purpose. His determination showed in his every movement. The act of determining the properties of something, usually by research or calculation. The determination of molecular structures. Deciding or controlling something's outcome or nature. The determination of grammatical inflections. The trait of resoluteness as evidenced by firmness of character or purpose. A man of unusual decisiveness. The quality of being final or definitely settled. The person or thing chosen or selected. A natural process resulting in the evolution of organisms best adapted to the environment. A passage selected from a larger work. The act of choosing or selecting. An assortment of things from which a choice can be made. The store carried a large selection of shoes. The person or thing chosen or selected. The act of choosing or selecting. Your choice of colors was unfortunate. One of a number of things from which only one can be chosen. My only choice is to refuse. Of superior grade. Choice wines. Appealing to refined taste. Choice wine. The quantity of a crop that is harvested. He sent the first picking of berries to the market. The person or thing chosen or selected. He was my pick for mayor. A heavy iron tool with a wooden handle and a curved head that is pointed on both ends. They used picks and sledges to break the rocks. Pull lightly but sharply with a plucking motion. Pay for something. Pick up the tab. Look for and gather. Pick mushrooms. The act of choosing or selecting. You can take your pick. The best people or things in a group. Harass with constant criticism. Don't always pick on your little brother. Eat intermittently. Take small bites of. Remove unwanted substances from, such as feathers or pits. A small thin device, of metal or plastic or ivory, used to pluck a stringed instrument. The yarn woven across the warp yarn in weaving. Attack with or as if with a pickaxe of ice or rocky ground, for example. Hit lightly with a picking motion. A basketball maneuver. Obstructing an opponent with one's body. He was called for setting an illegal pick. A thin sharp implement used for removing unwanted material. He used a pick to clean the dirt out of the cracks. Pilfer or rob. Pickpockets. Provoke. Pick a fight or a quarrel. Remove in small bits. Pick meat from a bone. Select carefully from a group. She finally picked her successor. The act of choosing or selecting. One of a number of things from which only one can be chosen. What option did I have? The right to buy or sell property at an agreed price. The right is purchased, and if it is not exercised by a stated date, the money is forfeited. The act of judging or assessing a person or situation or event. The capacity to assess situations or circumstances shrewdly and to draw sound conclusions. The cognitive process of reaching a decision or drawing conclusions. The legal document stating the reasons for a judicial decision. The mental ability to understand and discriminate between relations. Law, the determination by a court of competent jurisdiction on matters submitted to it. An opinion formed by judging something. The act of judging or assessing a person or situation or event. They criticized my judgment of the contestants. The capacity to assess situations or circumstances shrewdly and to draw sound conclusions. The cognitive process of reaching a decision or drawing conclusions. The legal document stating the reasons for a judicial decision. The mental ability to understand and discriminate between relations. Law, the determination by a court of competent jurisdiction on matters submitted to it. An opinion formed by judging something. He was reluctant to make his judgment known. Pay close attention to, give heed to. That which is responsible for one's thoughts, feelings, and conscious brain functions, the seat of the faculty of reason. His mind wandered. Knowledge and intellectual ability. He reads to improve his mind. Keep in mind. An important intellectual. The great minds of the 17th century. Be in charge of or deal with. Your intention. What you intend to do. He had in mind to see his old teacher. An opinion formed by judging something. She changed her mind. Be on one's guard. Be cautious or wary about. Be alert to. Attention. Don't pay him any mind. Be concerned with or about something or somebody. Be offended or bothered by. Take offense with, be bothered by. I don't mind your behavior. Recall or remembrance. It came to mind. The trait of being resolute. The trait of being resolute. His resoluteness carried him through the battle. Find the solution. Reach a decision. He resolved never to drink again. Bring to an end. Settle conclusively. Reach a conclusion after a discussion or deliberation. The trait of being resolute. A formal expression by a meeting. Agreed to by a vote. Cause to go into a solution. Understand the meaning of. Make clearly visible. Can this image be resolved? The muscle tone of healthy tissue. His muscular firmness. The trait of being resolute. The quality of being steady or securely and immovably fixed in place. The property of being unyielding to the touch. The trait of being resolute. It was his unshakable resolution to finish the work. Analysis into clear-cut components. A formal expression by a meeting. Agreed to by a vote. A statement that solves a problem or explains how to solve the problem. Finding a solution to a problem. The ability of a microscope or telescope to measure the angular separation of images that are close together. Something settled or resolved. The outcome of decision-making. They never did achieve a final resolution of their differences. A decision to do something or to behave in a certain manner. He always wrote down his New Year's resolutions. Computer science. The number of pixels per square inch on a computer-generated display. The greater the resolution, the better the picture. Music. A dissonant chord is followed by a consonant chord. The subsidence of swelling or other signs of inflammation, especially in a lung. Something that results. A phenomenon that follows and is caused by some previous phenomenon. Something that results. The final point in a process. Occurring with or following as a consequence. The resultant savings were considerable. A vector that is the sum of two or more other vectors. Something that results. A phenomenon that follows and is caused by some previous phenomenon. Produce as a result or residue. Issue or terminate, in a specified way, state, etc., end. Result in tragedy. A statement that solves a problem or explains how to solve the problem. He computed the result to 4 decimal places. The semantic role of the noun phrase whose referent exists only by virtue of the activity denoted by the verb in the clause. Something that results. He listened for the results on the radio. Come about or follow as a consequence. Nothing will result from this meeting. The end of a word, a suffix or inflectional ending or final morpheme. The act of ending something. The termination of the agreement. A coming to an end of a contract period. A place where something ends or is complete. Something that results. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. The appointment had to be approved by the whole committee. Usually in the plural, furnishings and equipment, especially for a ship or hotel. A person who is appointed to a job or position. A meeting arranged in advance. Law. the act of disposing of property by virtue of the power of appointment. She allocated part of the trust to her church by appointment. The job to which you were, or hope to be, appointed. He applied for an appointment in the Treasury. A duty that you are assigned to perform, especially in the armed forces. The act of distributing something to designated places or persons. The first task is the assignment of an address to each datum. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. Law. A transfer of property by deed of conveyance. An undertaking that you have been assigned to do, as by an instructor. The instrument by which a claim or right or interest or property is transferred from one person to another. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Make a prediction about. Tell in advance. Order, request, or command to come. She was called into the director's office. Utter a sudden loud cry. Pay a brief visit. The mayor likes to call on some of the prominent citizens. The option to buy a given stock, or stock index or commodity future, at a given price before a given date. A demand by a broker that a customer deposit enough to bring his margin up to the minimum requirement. A demand especially in the phrase. The call of duty. A telephone connection. She reported several anonymous calls. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Greet, as with a prescribed form, title, or name. She calls him by first name. Demand payment of a loan. Give the calls to the dancers for a square dance. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. I tried to call you all night. The characteristic sound produced by a bird. Make a demand, as for a card or a suit or a show of hands. He called his trump. A brief social visit. Senior professors' wives no longer make afternoon calls on newcomers. A demand for a show of hands in a card game. After 2 raises there was a call. An instruction that interrupts the program being executed. Pascal performs calls by simply giving the name of the routine to be executed. A request. Many calls for Christmas stories. Ascribe a quality to or give a name of a common noun that reflects a quality. He called me a bastard. A special disposition, as if from a divine source, to pursue a particular course. A visit in an official or professional capacity. The pastor's calls on his parishioners. Call a meeting. Invite or command to meet. The Wannsee Conference was called to discuss the final solution. Challenge somebody to make good on a statement, charge with or censure for an offense. He deserves to be called on that. Challenge the sincerity or truthfulness of. Call the speaker on a question of fact. Consider or regard as being. I would not call her beautiful. Declare in the capacity of an umpire or referee. Call a runner out. Indicate a decision in regard to. Call balls and strikes behind the plate. Lure by imitating the characteristic call of an animal. Make a stop in a harbor. The ship will call in Honolulu tomorrow. order or request or give a command for. The unions called a general strike for Sunday. Order, summon, or request for a specific duty or activity, work, role. He was already called 4 times for jury duty. Read aloud to check for omissions or absentees. Require the presentation of for redemption before maturation. Rouse somebody from sleep with a call. I was called at 5 a.m. this morning. Send a message or attempt to reach someone by radio, phone, etc. Make a signal in order to transmit a message. Hawaii is calling. Sports, the decision made by an umpire or referee. He was ejected for protesting the call. Stop or postpone because of adverse conditions, such as bad weather. Call a football game. Utter a characteristic note or cry. Blue Jays called to one another. Utter in a loud voice or announce. He called my name. Making a chance decision by using lots, straws or pebbles etc. that are thrown or drawn. Identifying word or words by which someone or something is called and classified or distinguished from others. The act of designating or identifying something. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. Making a chance decision by using lots, straws or pebbles etc. that are thrown or drawn. Give an incentive for action. This moved me to sacrifice my career. Be in a state of action. Change location. Move, travel, or proceed, also metaphorically. The soldiers moved towards the city in an attempt to take it before night fell. The act of changing location from one place to another. The movement of people from the farms to the cities. Cause to move or shift into a new position or place, both in a concrete and in an abstract sense. The director moved more responsibilities onto his new assistant. Perform an action, or work out or perform an action. We must move quickly. The act of changing your residence or place of business. They say that 3 moves equal 1 fire. Have a turn. Make one's move in a game. Have an emotional or cognitive impact upon. Follow a procedure or take a course. A change of position that does not entail a change of location. Movement as a sign of life. Progress by being changed. Propose formally. In a debate or parliamentary meeting. Arouse sympathy or compassion in. Her fate moved us all. Change residence, affiliation, or place of employment. We moved from Idaho to Nebraska. Dispose of by selling. The chairman of the company told the salesman to move the computers. Game. A player's turn to take some action permitted by the rules of the game. Go or proceed from one point to another. The debate moved from family values to the economy. Live one's life in a specified environment. She moves in certain circles only. Move so as to change position, perform a non-translational motion. He moved his hand slightly to the right. The act of deciding to do something. He didn't make a move to help. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. Inclined to or serving for the giving of names. The verbal act of naming. The part he failed was the naming of state capitals. Making a chance decision by using lots, straws or pebbles etc., that are thrown or drawn. Theology, being determined in advance. Especially the doctrine, usually associated with Calvin, that God has foreordained every event throughout eternity, including the final salvation of mankind. A mental determination or resolve in advance, an antecedent intention to do something. He entered the argument with a predetermination to prove me wrong. The act of determining or ordaining in advance what is to take place.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.